Thank you for tuning in to watch our 7th annual Focus Atlanta Leadership Summit. You're about to watch our opening keynote, Ricky Smith, the General Manager of the Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport. Be sure to like and subscribe for more leadership insights. Enjoy. Well, as I just mentioned, I've been spending a lot of time in airports as of late, so thank you so much for running such a busy airport.
Glad to hear that you spent some time at our airport.
Absolutely.
You had a great experience.
I do. You know, while it is very big and very hectic, I never feel lost. Me.
Well, it's big. It's not hectic. 1 out of 2 is not bad. Okay.
Maybe I'm talking more about the people in it.
Okay.
You know, travel is hectic, and as a traveler, you know, you're bringing that stress and anxiety, but you're hoping that when you land in the place, there is that comfort there. And I know you're working on that every day.
Yes, we are. We work on it every day.
Yes, absolutely. And so in your interview with Focus Atlanta, you mentioned that people are not just coming to the airport, but they're coming through the airport. How does that change of mindset, or what do you think about with that change of mindset in how you approach the travel experience?
Well, I mean, many of you in the room, I guess, may be old enough to remember when you would put on your best apparel to go to the airport. You would get dressed up to actually fly. You know, we don't do that anymore now. We want to get comfortable. But that was because going to the airport itself was an experience. Today, people go to the airport because it's their way of getting somewhere else. And so for the most part, you know, although people love coming to Hartsfield-Jackson, they don't wake up in the morning saying, you know, I'd love to spend a day at Hartsfield-Jackson International. They just don't. They want to go somewhere else. And so what I mean by that is you know, in airports are understanding that airports provide an excellent experience to the extent that passengers are able to have a seamless throughput, right? That they're able to get through the airport without having to spend any more time in the airport than they have to. Now, we want you to spend money while you're at the airport, but we understand you want to get in the garage, get out quickly, you want to get through the checkpoints quickly, you want to get to your gate just in time for your flight to take off so that you can get to your destination. And so in that sense, yeah, people want to get through airports, not necessarily go to an airport.
And spend money when they're there.
And spend money while they're there. And realize that it's not a hectic experience.
Exactly. I've been doing a lot of breathing exercises as of late. I think we just all need to take, you know, some breaths. More.
In Atlanta, when we refer to Hartsfield-Jackson, we use the E word we use is efficient.
Efficient. I like that. Yes. Well, the latest IATA Global Passenger Survey shows strong interest in biometrics and digital identity to speed up the airport process. What role do you see hubs like Hartsfield-Jackson playing in accelerating the adoption of biometric travel across the country?
Well, I mean, just to piggyback on what I said earlier, you know, our effort is to try to make that experience as seamless as possible. And we can do that best to the extent that we can predict passenger behavior, you know, what the passenger interest is, you know, where they want to go, how they want to travel to the airport. So we use AI, for example. We see AI as an opportunity to improve our ability to engage in predictive analytics, to enhance our security efforts, to make sure that we understand what people are doing, who's in the airport, what their interests are, what their motivations might be. And so biometric is part of that, particularly in our security checkpoint activities, both in the international and the domestic side, to the extent that we can process you from a security standpoint quickly, then that improves your experience through the airport. And so, yes, we're using biometrics technology as much as we can.
How else is AI shaping how the airport operates, or how you're looking at the future of how the airport operates?
So we have millions of people coming through the airport every day. And particularly if you just pay attention to what's going on in the world today, not everyone has good intentions. It's important to our security apparatus that they understand who's in the airport, the history of people that are in the airport, and that we're able to do that in an almost an intuitive manner. And so AI allows us to do that. We have thousands of cameras throughout the airport, right? You can imagine that. That's not unique to Hartsfield-Jackson. Every airport has that kind of security apparatus. To the extent that we can bring those cameras to life and be able to understand the movements of passengers and other people in the airport, that makes for a more safe and secure environment. And that's what AI allows us to do in the sense of security.
And speaking of security, geopolitical situation as we know it now with the conflict in Iran, what are the measures that the airport needs to take when those shift so rapidly? I mean, not too long ago there was Venezuela. It's ever shifting as of late.
Well, airports are subject to almost, any environmental impact in the world or in the region. And so, if there's unrest in one part of the world and we have air service to that world, it's going to interrupt that air service. And so we have to be nimble. We have to work very closely with our airline stakeholders to make sure that we're making adjustments to how we prioritize passengers, how we inform passengers, how we communicate with passengers, because this always creates some level of uncertainty with them. And to the extent that we can make them as informed as possible when they're coming to the airport and engaging in their flight, regardless of what's going on in the environment, then that makes for a better travel experience.
And you mentioned there's millions and millions of people who are passing through not only your airport, but airports all around the nation, the world. And we're only seeing more rising demands of passengers and with a strain on infrastructure while experiencing a lot of workforce challenges. From your perspective, what are the biggest trends and solutions for these problems that will shape the airports over the next decade?
Well, that's a question that every airport director around the country, if not the world, is dealing with. I mean, the industry is truly moving from a demand-focused industry to a capacity-focused industry. We don't have to do a lot to inspire people to travel, right? Demand is on the rise. The issue we have is our facilities don't have the capacity that we need. We don't have enough gates. In some cases, there isn't enough airfield capacity. Other amenities in the facilities are stretched, our security checkpoints, and so we have a capacity issue from an infrastructure standpoint. We have a labor challenge, right? And we're competing with other industries for the best talent we can find. Hartsfield-Jackson is competing with other airports for the best talent we can find, and so there's a constraint there. Yes. And just the whole idea of helping people understand that airports are not just modes of transportation, that they truly are economic engines. Mm-hmm. Delta Airlines is our hub partner, and I always say that Delta is not just the major airline at Hartsfield-Jackson. It is one of our most important community partners, right? And so to the extent that the airport as an economic engine can enable that and help our hub carrier grow, then it's making an impact well beyond just getting a person from one location to another.
Absolutely. And speaking of that economic impact, the airport contributes more than $60 billion to the regional economy. How do you see the airport's role evolving as a driver of economic impact and global connectivity for Metro Atlanta?
Well, I mean, part of it is what I just said, is changing the mindset of how people view the airport, moving from just beyond a mode of transportation to an economic engine. You can go to any major city in the country, and that airport in that region is the major economic engine for that region. And that's certainly true for Hartsfield-Jackson, but it kind of goes a little farther here. We're not just the major economic driver in Atlanta and Georgia, but in the entire southeast region, there's not a larger employer than Hartsfield-Jackson. And so that speaks to the importance of the airport as an economic engine. I mean, just imagine removing 63,000 jobs out of this region. 100 years ago, we're celebrating our 100th anniversary. 100 years ago, the area that we call Hartsfield-Jackson was a racetrack, right? I keep asking historians how many people were employed there. I can't get that answer, but I can't imagine more than 100 people being employed at that racetrack over 100 years because of the many good decisions that were made. We've gone from an employment base of 100 people to now 63,000. And we're now we're master planning to accommodate 160 million passengers. That just speaks to the growth and the impact that this airport will have as an economic engine. And to the extent that the community appreciates it that way, then we'll have the political and the corporate and the business community support that we need to make the tough decisions to get there.
Yeah. And you mentioned the community support, and Atlanta definitely has community running through it. We're looking at a group of business leaders here in Atlanta. How can the airport foster more community partners, or how can the community support the growth of the airport? What does that ecosystem look like to you over the next 5 to 10 years?
Well, I mean, the next 5 to 15 days. It's easy for airports. Airports are like small cities. It's easy for us to be very insular in our thinking and to just focus on the day-to-day activities of an airport. Those airports that look at ways to enhance its economic impact are good at taking the airport outside of its fence line, right? There are communities, there are people in our public that just can't imagine themselves being at an airport. We have to go to them and help them understand that, although it may be some mystique facility to you, but it's a place where you can have a career, where you can, be an employee or a business person in a thriving way. And so connecting with the community means we've got to step outside of our offices and go out into the community and develop relationships and nourish those relationships and try to connect with people where they are in a way that we haven't in the past.
Excellent. And as we know, Hartsfield-Jackson has been one of the...
By the way, I was promised 3 questions. Okay. I'm joking, okay?
But you're answering so good. I got one more for you.
No, I'm fine.
But we know that Hartsfield-Jackson has been historically one of the busiest airports in the world, but you have said yourself that...
I'm sorry. Walter, you know what I'm about to do. I've got to correct that. We're not one of the busiest airports in the world.
Yeah,
we are the busiest in the world. Sorry, Abby.
You are good, the busiest airport in the world. Yes, good correction. Thank you. But you have said yourself, busy doesn't always equal great.
Yes.
What are you doing to make Hartsfield-Jackson great?
So I started saying this when I first arrived, and I used to stumble over it, but now it comes out pretty smoothly. We're not great because we're the busiest and most efficient in the world. We're the busiest and most efficient in the world because we're great. And that's important. And the reason why that is significant, if you pay attention to what's going on now in the Middle East, for example, the second busiest airport in the world is Dubai, right? Well, that airport unfortunately took a hit. Had nothing to do with the management of that airport. That's going to impact that airport's status as the second busiest in the world. There are environmental events, environmental factors that can happen anywhere in the world that might affect the traffic levels at Hartsfield-Jackson, that might cause us to move from number 1 to number 2. If that happens, we're not any less great at management. Our regional economy is still strong. All those things that make us great today will still be there. There will be environmental factors that we have no control over that might affect our posture in the industry. And so it's important that, although that's a sense of pride, and trust me, we deserve to be proud of that, we have to focus on doing the things to make sure that people know how great we are under the hood. That we're not just great because we handle more passengers. We're great because this region supports the airport, and the airport is a reflection of the strength of the economy, the amazing professionals we have, the millions of the good decisions that were made over the last 100 years, the 63,000 people that call it their employer of choice. And there are a lot of things that we do have control over that make us great, and I think we need to focus more on that so that we can say with the sense of pride. We have this thing internally, and I always get joked about it. We have a number of strategic priorities that we set out for the year, and so I call them swagger-worthy initiatives. The team picks at me about it, and the reason I call them swagger-worthy initiatives, because it's one thing, to get through a year and feel good and say you're great. It's another thing to take on hard opportunities, execute them, and at the end of the year be able to show and demonstrate the amazing things you've done. And if you can demonstrate that, then you've earned the right to walk with swagger. You can pound your chest. And so, we think a lot internally about what we can do to be great under the hood, so that we have more than just, this sense of pride that we're the greatest because we handle more passengers.
All right, I think my lesson from Atlanta is that everything is just cooler than me. The Atlanta airport has swagger, this hotel is cool, Atlanta's cool, I'm not cool. Ricky, thank you so much for being so generous with your
Thank you,
answers.
Abby.
Let's give him a round of applause.